Greetings once again, heroes and villains. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with My Hero Academia. Now previously, the swarm of twices summoned by Himiko Toga has overrun the hero. Aravdi has been doing her best to get to Toga with both action and word, but gains the ire of Toga, who pulls Froppy out from the swarm and tries to stab at her, only to be saved by Aravdi. We also learned more about Toga's past, seeing that she was constantly made to suppress who she was and her urges, but not understanding why her love was seen as something so wrong. It even seemed in certain cases as though either she did something and lied about it, or didn't do something and was blamed for it. We also see another ability, that the Twice clones themselves could swallow the blood of the heroes on the battlefield, changing into them as well, but not being able to use their powers as well. But Froppy calls out for the crowd, begging Toga to listen to Aravdi, but it might be too late, as Toga has stabbed Uraraka in the chest, fueled by anger and hate. We then have another flashback to Toga's days with the League of Villains, with Twice asking if Toga wanted her own villain name. I almost said hero name, which has always kind of been something on my mind. Bakugo got his hero name. Did Toga ever choose a name? Or will she choose one now that she has truly embraced the way of the villain? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, My Hero Academia number 393, ever so close to 400. And we have the flashback of Twice asking, "Hey, say, Toga, don't you want a villain name of your own?" Mr. Compress, fiddling with his mechanical arm, says, "Ah, indeed." Spinner, who's watching Shigaraki play a video game, says, "Come to think of it, you and the boss are the only ones here without villain name." And Twice calls out, "Let me name you. Does it matter?" But Toga turns away saying, "No thank you." But the others insist, Compress saying, "A villain name adds a bit of class." Spinner says, "Vampirus Carmilla," or Camilla. That actually sounds pretty good. While Twice says, "Sucks up. Lick your tongue." Oh god. And Toga turns away, getting angry, saying, "No." Dobby says, "Stupid. That's just some crowd-pleasing crap. A holdover from before the quirk registration system." While Compress calls out, "You're one to talk, Dobby." Ooh. Shigaraki says, "There basically used to be no difference between heroes and villains. One theory says the alias stuff started when you'd have an anonymous enemy and needed to call them something. From there, some decided to adopt those very nicknames to hide their identity, assuming another identity like a new skin was a matter of survival. At some point, they went all in with the code names ripped straight from comic book. According to this theory, it all started with people announcing themselves by those aliases. That's why the world's turned into a comic book. Anyways, I'm good. The name can be cool and all, but I'm actually glad we got that explanation." Toga leaps up for joy, saying, "Yay. This is why I joined the League." And she remembers when she first joined up saying life is too hard. She says, "I want to live as Himiko Toga." We then cut to present day. After Toga stabbed into Aravdi, she pulls the knife out. Blood gushes everywhere as Toga calls out, "Your rules tell you to pity me, but don't you dare." But despite coughing up blood, Aravdi manages to grab onto Toga as she says, "It's not pity." She then kicks Toga away, which sends Toga floating through the air. Toga thinks to herself, "She touched me, but if I'm floating, so what? No risk there." Toga then calls out, "You know just the right things to say, But in the end, you'll toss me into a cage on death row, won't you?" And as a swarm of Twices come up to meet Toga, she calls out, "Or you'll murder me outright, just like they did to Jin. It's win or lose, live or die. Winner takes all survival match. No going back now." And Aravdi says, holding her wound, "That seems like the obvious truth for both of us." Toga calls out, "If it's really not pity, then it's just your ego talking. And if our egos are clashing, then you're dead meat, hero." And the swarm continues to grow as Toga summons the Sad Man's Legion. Jeez, it's just more and more twices flooding outward as you see the heroes just completely overrun. Up in the helicopter, the camera person says, Have you ever seen such a thing? The reporter says quirks will grow stronger with every generation until no one can hope to control them. Over the years, we've often heard whispers of that doomsday theory. Well, here it is, coming to a head today. This one girl, her emotions are transforming the very world. And Toga commands the flood of doubles. Crush her. Go on. But Aravati, she uses her gunhead martial arts to hit many of the clones coming our way, causing them to float. The clones call back, so what if we're floating? There's no damage done. Uraraka calls out, exactly. My zero gravity isn't a power for hurting people. Toga remembers Uraraka's words when she told her that she used her power to cause Curious and the death of many of Curious's colleagues. With Uraraka saying, I would never feel happy about dropping a person out of the sky. Oof. But it looks like Uraraka starts just throwing up because of the excessive use of her ability. Uraraka thinks about Toga's words. If it's really not pity, then it's just your ego talking. Uraraka, doing her best to grapple out of the way of the flood of twices and clones, says, Ego, huh? You may be right. You've intentionally killed people, and I can't wipe your slate clean. Yet when I see your face, like you had no choice, I figure there must have been a reason. 'Cause that day when the world got turned upside down, what I said made you look so sad. Toga calls out, you were the sad one. And Uraraka calls back out, we both were. Listen to me, Himiko Toga. You seriously scared the crap out of me when we first met, because I didn't understand you back then. Given the situation, how could you grin like that? Such a genuine smile. Toga calls out, shut up. With Toga remembering Twice's words when she said she didn't want a villain name. Twice saying, you'll live as Himiko Toga? Sounds great. Drop all the bodies you like and become whoever the hell you want. But she also remembers Pikipil telling her, stop making that creepy smile. As Toga calls out to Uraraka, just die. Why won't you die already? And as Uraraka tries to make her way through the swarm, she says, I know I pushed you away that one time. And maybe this world isn't a place you can be yourself. And as Uraraka sees her cloned face, angry in the swarm, she thinks of Toga's words, just your ego. Uraraka thinks to herself, I know all that, yet even so, I've observed so many happy faces in my time. She thinks of when she decided to be a hero, the hero coming out on top, the people cheering, but she thinks of herself as a little kid looking back to a younger Toga, and Uraraka calls out to Toga, but being able to declare what you love and do it with your whole face, well, that smile of yours is so perfect that I'm honestly jealous. You hear me? I get it. Toga's been called creepy and weird so often that she's used to responding to that, but to actually hear something genuine, she thinks of the words like some sort of deviant in response to her smile, but she wells up with tears at the thought of someone actually being jealous of how she looked. Uraraka calls out, and I don't want to pretend I never saw your amazing smile. Is Uraraka's ability evolving? 'Cause out of her hands something seems to shoot through the swarm that's crowding around her. Whoa, some sort of mass float. Yeah, I don't think she has to touch people anymore with her ability. Jiro, who's now floating, says, I'm floating? But Uraraka never touched me. It's like it spread between the bodies that came into contact. Oh, it's kind of like Shigaraki's ability, essentially. Whereas Shigaraki's ability evolved, and he could decay things, and those who are on contact with what he touched would decay, and it would just radiate out till it came to a stopping point. Her float ability has evolved to that as well. I never actually thought about it like that. And the reporter calls out, this one girl. And as it's obvious that Toga is utterly confused by everything she's feeling right now, Uraraka goes racing towards Toga, saying, look, can't erase all your crimes or approve of everything you've done, but if any part of you still feels like talking to me, you can have a lifetime's worth of blood. So let's have that chat about romance, Himiko Toga. And the last thing we see is the image of a young Toga crying as a young Uraraka offers her blood. What Uraraka is trying to do here is a very hard thing, because it's something that, in a lot of ways, it's hard for a lot of people to accept. And I can see a lot of people getting mad about this, because ultimately what she's trying to say, I feel, at least from my perspective, is that, Himiko Toga, you will be judged for what you've done. You're still a criminal. You've hurt several, who knows how many people. And yes, you may very well receive the death penalty at the end of it. I don't feel like Uraraka is brushing that to the side. But what I feel she's trying to ultimately say here, in the long run, is that Toga still needs to be treated as a human. Whether it be simply getting Toga to understand why what she's doing is wrong, gaining some sort of empathy from the girl, not just dying in a blaze of glory, but have some form of kindness, come whatever happens in the future. That's what I feel this is. That ultimately, had people treated Toga more humanely in the past, had just come to some kind of understanding, some sort of compromise with how she was previously, maybe it wouldn't have gotten to this point. It ultimately comes down to a lesson in empathy and compassion, that maybe with that, Toga will stop this on her own before it gets even more out of hand than it already has. Because in a world that's all about beating the bad guy, there's never an attempt to kind of understand the bad guy, understand why they're doing this, and maybe see if there could be some kind of peaceful resolution. Take it from another perspective, instead of just shooting down the person holding a gun to someone else's head, being able to talk them down, talk them out of the situation, and maybe through building understanding, you can prevent another Himiko Toga from ever being out there in the world. What I ultimately feel is being said is this is not a clean-cut solution. This is complex. Yes, these villains need to be taken down, no matter what. They're harming people, they're killing people, they're doing terrible things. But to not address it beyond that is to keep having these kinds of situations repeat themselves. But I do have to see how this all resolves, because this feels like something that even after Toga is defeated, knowing what happens to Toga after all this is said and done will be the thing that fully puts everything into perspective, you know? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How did you feel about this? What it seems that Uraraka is trying to do? And how do you feel this will all be resolved? Will Toga stand down? Will Uraraka have to take her out, you know? And what do you think about the evolution of Uraraka's ability? Let me know in the comments. Also remember to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.